Fallout 4 has a lot of weapons. Some are ranged, some are melee, and some are just better than others. But then, there are some weapons that aren't weapons at all. There are some weapons that are children's toys. Can you beat Fallout 4 with only a paddle ball? No. Not even close. You have to get past the gunners, go to Nuka-World, bypass the gauntlet, farm for tickets at the Nuka-Cade, buy a limited amount of ammo that only refreshes every 3 in-game days, and then you can't leave Nuka-World until you beat Overboss Colter, who is a level 30 boss fight while you're level 1 using a fucking paddle ball. Oh, okay, but if you ignore all that and just spawn it in at the beginning of the game, can you beat Fallout 4 with only a paddle ball? I decided to answer this question live on stream. I started off by making a beautiful character. God, okay, what have I created? Witnessed a vision of God and wondered what would happen if you killed the Overseer.
Up the stairs.
Yeah, the Overseer is dead. And this guy is also dead. Yeah, see, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be perfectly fine. Then I was off to get frozen, defrosted, refrozen, and finally thawed out. I masterfully evaded the roaches. Where did this roach come from? Excuse me? And then, with my family dead and my sanity dwindling, I decided it was time to try out the paddle ball. And oh good lord, this thing is horrible. The paddle ball is like a cross between a melee weapon and a ranged weapon, in that it has the drawbacks of both and the benefits of neither. It's a weapon that forces you to get into melee range, but it rewards this high-risk playstyle with a whopping 1 damage per hit. And that's only if you can get that damage in between reloads, because of course the paddle ball needs to reload! It's not a long reload, but you really feel it when you're desperately trying to get in your 20 damage per clip before you die. But that's okay, because I have a plan. I'm going to scrap all of Sanctuary and condense it into a single wire fence. Then I'm going to take the Idiot Savant perk and continue building for XP until level 3. That lets me take the Blacksmith perk, which allows me to stick blades into a rubber ball for a whole 3 damage per hit plus bleed, as opposed to 1 damage per hit. For reference, the first gun you find in the game does 18 per hit. And this is the most damage I'm going to be getting out of the paddle ball for quite some time. It's incredibly hard to find any information on what perks affect this weapon, since no one would actually use this, but from what I can gather, there are no damage perks in the game that affect this weapon. Even Bloody Mess, a perk that is supposed to boost all damage you do, does not increase the listed damage of the paddle ball. So the only way to boost my damage with this weapon is through weapon mods, and I can't build any better weapon mods until I get rank 2 of the Science perk. Getting 2 ranks of the Science perk requires 6 in Intelligence versus my current 2 and level 17! For reference, this run ended at level 23. So now that I've maxed out my damage for the time being, I decided it was time to try to kill a Deathclaw using only a paddle ball. This is gonna be a problem. As you can see, there are raiders with guns, and I have a paddle ball. I climbed to the top of the Preston enclosure, acquired my power armor, and just kind of stood there. The Deathclaw and the raiders fought each other while ignoring me almost completely, and I barely had to do anything. Once that was over, Preston and the Prestons pointed me in the direction of Diamond City, and also told me to join them in Sanctuary. I told them to f*** off, and headed towards the Great Green Disappointment of the Commonwealth. I say this because as my character is using a paddle ball, I am obligated to believe that baseball is an inferior sport to ping pong. On the way, I encountered a walking garbage disposal, ran past Piper, and talked to Ellie, who told me that it was time for the Triggermen to square off against the Paddlemen. I tried to fight Swan as a scientific experiment, got a result within standard deviation, and went to Park Street Station to begin the paddling. As it turns out, a room full of men armed with submachine guns can do a surprising amount of damage to one guy with a paddle ball. I guzzled stim packs, food, chems, pocket lint, and whatever else I found to survive the wave of bullets washing over me. And then I headed deeper into the vault. Being in a small enclosed space only fueled my bloodlust. No one in the vault was safe from my paddle. Alright, thanks. Wait! Wait, did I hit that guy's head so hard it exploded? I made Dino extinct, found Nick, and made a tough decision. If he is not my companion, and he gets a kill, if he does damage, does that mean the challenge is over? I decided that, because I didn't choose for him to be there, and I can't do anything to make him go away. Nick doing damage to my enemies without using a paddle ball does not fail the challenge. Then, I encountered the second fattest man in the Commonwealth after the character I used to take B-roll footage. His name is Face. Say hi.
Back home to Daddy, shall I?
Okay. Alright. Alright, Darla, I understand. And you know what? That deserves a paddling. Darla, Skinny Malone, and the surviving Triggermen were paddled harder than you should paddle the like button. And subscribe if you want to see more dumb shit like this. Nick told me we needed to investigate Kellogg's house. I passed a medium speech check despite my charisma of 2. Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? I have 2 charisma? Opened the door, hit the button, and stole all of Kellogg's food while Nick tried to talk to me. He summoned a dog, who I promptly ignored to go to Fort Hagen myself. I realized I was in the wrong part of the map. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh, okay. Oh no. Oh no. We need to get out of here. We need to get out of here and fast. Fast traveled closer to where I was actually supposed to go and continued ignoring dog meat. This, in hindsight, was a huge mistake. The challenge for this run is to only do damage using a paddle ball. Dogmeat mauling synths to death is not using a paddle ball. Because of this, Dogmeat is not allowed to be here. However, because the game forces Dogmeat to be my companion after I complete this stage of the quest, he teleports into Fort Hagen as soon as I enter it and immediately enters combat. Because I ignored the turrets outside, going outside will also make Dogmeat immediately go into combat. While I am in combat, I cannot bring up the dialogue option to dismiss Dog. Since the game only makes Dogmeat my companion after I enter Fort Hagen, and not while I'm outside, I spent extra time and stimpaks to get rid of all the turrets, summoned Dogmeat, immediately went outside, and sent Dog back from whence he came. Now that Dog is back where he belongs, it's time for my assault on Fort Hagen. I began by immediately realizing that I forgot my power armor. Then, it was time to actually begin the assault on Fort Hagen, where I learned that synths can bleed. Thanks to my power armor, I could survive the onslaught of lasers, bullets, and whatever else Kellogg had in store for me. The power armor, however, could not. Battered, bruised, and looking ridiculous because I had an intact power armor helmet but no torso, I faced the Wasteland's favorite brand of cereal. Alright, okay, here we go. First thing I'm gonna do, take literally all the drugs. Kellogg proved to be a challenging fight. He was elusive, his synths were relentless, and I felt as naked as you could possibly feel in a powered mech suit. But then, right as I took out his synths, he did something incredible. He backed into a corner, stayed there, and I beat him to death with a rubber ball. It was honestly harder to come up with a one-liner to say after killing him than to actually kill him. You could say your skull has been corn popped. That was awful. There's gotta be better material than that. That was so bad. I legitimately have nothing here. I've actually got nothing. This is actually the hardest part of the run for like a completely unintentional reason. At this point, I'm just tabbed out of the game, right? I'm just tabbed out of the game, like on Kellogg's website, looking for the brands that they own. I was the one in stasis, but you were the one that got frosted flakes. I spent so long standing over Kellogg's rapidly cooling body that it took me until the next stream to leave Fort Hagen. I entered an elevator that took way too long, randomly turned green, and led to one of the coolest moments in the game. After trying and failing to hit the Pridwin with my paddle, I decided to return to Diamond City to talk to Nick about the guy I just killed and how dead he was. We concluded that he was, in fact, dead, but I should still go to Good Neighbor to get a second opinion. Once I got there, I met a man who was trying to sell me insurance. paddled him to death before he finished talking, accidentally sold my clothes, reloaded to save, paddled him to death again, sold my stuff correctly this time, and went to see Dr. Amari. I showed her the prize I found in my cereal box. That is a shrimp with some wires in it. And she immediately decided to plug it into Nick's head. Which made me wonder, if Nick Valentine is capable of running Kellogg's memories, like, can he run Doom? I searched Kellogg's memories by ignoring them, and somehow found out about Virgil in the glowing sea anyway. I'm not sure how you could have learned that from looking at a folder without actually looking at the files inside of it, but
your only mission
sure.
is to
Oh, I'm going in naked. Fingers crossed I get superpowers.
I know you're joking.
Little did she know, I wasn't joking. The glowing sea was laughably easy to traverse naked once I took Rad-X, except for the rad scorpions and a Deathclaw outside Virgil's cave. It would not leave. Inside, Virgil led me to a horrible realization. I just kind of realized, like, as part of this run, I'm gonna need to kill the Courser using a f***ing paddle ball. Do you know how hard that's going to be? I literally do free damage. I bought more chems, fast traveled to Green Tech Genetics, and mentally prepared myself to fight a building full of gunners and a Courser with a rubber ball. I want to die. And I did! It took all the paddling I could muster to kill the gunners. Each one could take a lot of paddling, and there were a lot of them. Their turrets kept me pinned down until I was forced to charge them and embrace the bullets rapidly entering my body. By the time I reached the next floor, my body was 12% lead by volume and rising. There were more gunners. A lot more gunners. And they continued to throw Molotovs at walls I was nowhere close to. Why are you wasting all of your Molotovs on this? I'm literally in, like, past the wall here. Like, why are you throwing Molotovs at this wall? There's nothing there. One guy had a missile launcher, which gave me more difficulty than anything else in the run so far, including the Courser, who shot at me and used a stealth boy, but otherwise took his paddling like a bitch. Amari told me about an underground train derailing faster than my will to live. I gave the Courser chip to a guy who really doesn't seem like the kind of guy I should give a Courser chip to. Are you sure this guy knows what he's talking about? And he's not just kind of like spouting off technobabble while hitting random keys to make it look like he knows what he's doing?
We got the code.
Oh, okay, never mind. Apparently he does. And as I was leaving to speak to Virgil, Desdemona asked me to join the railroad while we were still in the hallway. Awkward, but I was gonna side with him anyway, so, you know, not too bad. I went to Virgil, where I learned that the Deathclaw was still outside his cave, and still would not leave. Although I actually have the one. Oh, no, yeah, there's totally still a Deathclaw. There is absolutely still Deathclaw. We should make this quick. Then, I fast traveled to the physical embodiment of the sarcastic dialogue option, and we set off for the switchboard. I paddled synths. Synths. More synths. There's nothing in this building except for synths. I tried to hack a terminal while my head was crippled. I didn't exactly realize how much of a problem this would be, but yeah, this is certainly an issue. I actually can't see shit right now. Deacon gave me a gun I wasn't allowed to use. I had a grueling battle deciding what my codename would be, and I became a member of the railroad. I gave Virgil schematics to the same guy I gave the Courser chip.
Who wrote this? Some kid with a crayon? Must have been a real big kid.
To build from the drawings of a very large child. Tinker Tom gave me a grocery list and told me to f off. I built the only part of the teleporter I could build. Went back to Tinker Tom, and he gave me another grocery list before telling me to f off. I built all 3 parts of the teleporter, way too many generators, and prepared to enter the Institute. A week later. I changed my stream schedule around to finish this playthrough, because the alternative was letting Ultrakill kick my ass for the umpteenth time. So 2 days later, I entered the Institute. Alright, but do you have a contingency plan for if this thing blows up and I die? Met my son, met my other son, and, for reasons completely unrelated to the fact that I was working with the railroad, agreed to everything he said. My taller, wrinkly son told me to meet each of the Power Rangers. Then, I talked to the chosen one of the train people, who sent me on an errand to find a password in Cambridge Polymer Labs. I immediately got locked inside Cambridge Polymer Labs. This leads to an issue with the run. Feral ghouls. For most human enemies I encounter, a liberal application of paddling will stun them quite frequently, which greatly reduces their damage output. In addition, because I'm in melee range, they'll often try to use their high-powered automatic weapons as clubs instead of as portable lead delivery devices, which reduces their damage output even more. Not so for feral ghouls. They're fast, built for melee, and the paddleball's secret stunlock technique isn't nearly as effective on them. Plus, since they spawn in groups, my tactic of picking one enemy and paddling them to death while the other ones shoot at me doesn't work because there's always more ghouls throwing themselves in front of me. And if having to fight a horde of fast-moving melee enemies with a weapon literally 6 times worse than the first gun in the game wasn't bad enough, they also do radiation damage. So not only am I being clawed to death by 4 zombies at once while struggling to do enough damage to kill one of them, they're also reducing my max health at the same time. But regardless, I paddled on and paddled hard. I found the password I was looking for. You see, this is what happens when you don't use a VPN. Your internet passwords will be taken by a murderous man with a paddleball. Did some science, dropped off the password, and did nothing for the next 24 hours. 24 hours later, I found Z114 picking grass with his bare hands. He sent me into a tunnel where some synths were having a secret rave. I beat them to death and had a long walk on a beach to meet a man who told me to kidnap another man. Some guy had a fat man, which instantly ruined my day, and together we hit Alt F4 on this guy's brain. Except he stood up right after, so I'm not sure if he actually shut down or not. After our casual kidnapping, it was time for the Battle of Bunker Hill, a climactic fight between 3 factions where 2 of them were allied with me, and the last one was preoccupied fighting the other 2. I casually walked through the battlefield with my courser, paddled a Brotherhood knight to death, and entered the basement because no one would stop me. Inside, I encountered a Brotherhood Knight Sergeant who was way above my pay grade. I tried to paddle the Brotherhood soldiers while they were distracted by everyone else, which was a good idea, until they weren't distracted. I ran away to paddle another day, and found the synths I was supposed to save. I mean, enslave. No, wait. Save. I killed the courser, so I'm pretty sure I went in to save them. I proved to be a terrible liar. No one in the Institute cared that I fucked up Bunker Hill, and it was time to acquire a beryllium agitator. To do that, I need to fight a building full of Brotherhood forces in power armor, a sentry bot, and 2 assaultrons with a literal children's toy. But just when I thought all was lost, I reached level 17, and it was time for the paddleball to reach its final form. The Fireball mod adds 15 fire damage, bringing my damage up 5 times what it was before, to just 2 points under the first gun in the game. But it didn't matter to me now, because now, after all this time, I had an actual weapon, and you better believe I wasn't afraid to use it. The initiates fell before me in but 2 or 3 swings of my paddle. The knights, less so, but by this point I was desensitized to it. Each one of the knights I killed only made me stronger, as I tore through their power armor and absorbed it into my own. Or, at least I tried to, before it filled up my carry weight. The Brotherhood of Steel fell before the Rubberwood of Paddleball, and I claimed the Beryllium Agitator. Then, it was time. The sentry bot took a lot of damage, and it sent a lot of damage right back. My power armor could withstand the heavy blows and machine gun fire, but in return, the sentry bot was barely damaged by my paddle. It was truly a match between 2 immovable objects, pushing against each other with embarrassingly little force. It took over a minute of straight paddling, but with one final strike from my paddle ball, the sentry bot went down. Okay, no, we're not getting over this that quickly. I killed a sentry bot with a paddle ball! Now, it was time for the Assaultrons. They were fast, did a lot of damage, and had a devastating laser, which I needed to dodge. This fight was similar to trying to become a content creator in 2021. You're alone, there's nothing to help you, and you're fighting an AI that actively hates you and could end your career at any moment. I swung my paddle with the fury of a man who had to play through 2/3 of Fallout 4 with a weapon that does 3 damage per hit. The Assaultron's fists bounced off my power armor, and with careful positioning, I dodged their lasers. I could do little to their armor, but through sheer force of will and the several inches of steel currently on my body, I persisted. Against all odds, I did it. Not becoming a content creator, I mean killing the Assaultrons. Since my bloodlust was not yet sated, I helped the synths in the lobby before returning to the Institute. The next several minutes consisted mostly of that didn't matter, and was only there so I couldn't get to the interesting parts as quickly as I wanted to. I witnessed a man get telefragged. Yeah, I think this man is dead. We killed him. Screwed up the message, no one cared, and learned that the Brotherhood had discovered the location of the railroad. Considering the massive red line of paint leading directly to our location, it was a miracle they didn't find us sooner. I paddled, Glory died, and I paddled some more. Killing power armored knights with a paddle ball became an exercise in monotony. I held down mouse 1, they got staggered, or occasionally gun bashed, and that was what my life was until they died. With the Brotherhood eliminated, and the catacombs freshly stocked with more bodies, I started a counterattack on the police station, which was an absolute spaghetti fest. First, I started clearing out the police station, without realizing that the quest wanted me to speak to Tinker Tom before I did that. Then, one guy locked himself in a garage, and would not leave. Which wouldn't be a problem, if I could find the entrance. After he got close enough to the window that I could deliver a rubber ball to his skull, I headed to the roof of the police station, where a vertibird was waiting for me. And Tinker Tom wasn't. I reloaded a save, he showed up this time, and I got to work defending the vertibird from Brotherhood forces. This sequence of incredibly awkward events culminated in the most awkward of all, when a vertibird appeared and would not land. As you might know by this point in the video, I can only do damage using a paddle ball. The paddle ball is only effective at a very short range. This means I cannot hit the vertibird or any of its passengers. However, Deacon can hit the vertibird, and since he's technically not my companion right now, his attacks won't break the challenge. Unfortunately, he only has a laser pistol. Even more unfortunately, the vertibird has a minigun. Deacon fired a few lasers at the vertibird, was reduced to a fine paste by its mounted minigun, and stood up again a few seconds later to repeat the process. I was powerless to help him. Even when I found a Gatling laser on the ground, I couldn't make him equip it. I even contemplated if I should say the mounted minigun on my vertibird didn't count because I could not attack the vertibird without it. I waited, and waited, and waited. Deacon, after being shot to near death every few seconds, was more bullet than man. I did this. I waited for Deacon to kill a helicopter with a handgun while streaming the whole time. It took 12 minutes. If you want to see more of me walking around waiting for stuff to happen, check out my Twitch in the description, where I recorded this live. After what was easily the most awkward moments of my career, I rode up to the Prydwen, took my Brotherhood power armor off to get into a Brotherhood disguise, put it back on, and for some inexplicable reason, everyone went hostile. The last save I had since before everyone started shooting was before the vertibird, and there was no way in hell I was doing that again. So, I fought my way through the bridge, where I decided there were way too many Brotherhood soldiers inside to fight all of them at once. I dropped off 3 orders of explosives, ran like hell, and finally hit the Prydwen with my paddle ball. We got back to HQ, and there was no time left to delay. It was time to take on the Institute. I teleported into the relay and paddled everyone there, including the civilians, which may constitute a war crime. I bravely charged forward, paddling all the synths to death in an effort to save the synths. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either, but the Railroad were the only people desperate enough to take someone who can't use any weapon more complicated than a wooden paddle. Plus, I get a cool name. We pressed on to Institute Bioscience, where I hit a rubber ball into the head of an unarmed civilian so hard that it exploded. Excuse me, you, sir. Unarmed civilians do not get to leave. Again, I'm pretty sure I just committed a war crime. I stood over my old, wrinkled, dying son, asserted dominance over him, and then... I improved the reactor with the addition of a nuke, decided to keep my much smaller robot son, who I always preferred over the weird old one anyway, and beat Fallout 4 with only a paddle ball. I cannot hit the detonator with only a paddle ball. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you liked this video, be sure to drop a like. If you didn't, be sure to drop a dislike. If you want to see more, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitch, where I recorded this video live. And until next time, I'll see you later.